Hello, Internet. Welcome to Only Kind of Everything. And if you have been watching WWE recently, you know two things. You actually know a lot of things. But two things that we're really going to be talking about today. Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton and Kevin Owens. So, I'm going to give my thoughts on both of these subjects here. Kind of dissect the Charlotte Flair, Tiffany Stratton a little bit. And then just kind of give my thoughts on the whole Kevin Owens. Maybe kind of branch into Randy Orton, what's going on with him, what might happen with him. But we're going to dive right into it, guys. So if somehow you missed SmackDown, there was a segment with Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton, and man, that thing just went off the rails. You had Tiffany Stratton referencing Charlotte's divorces. You had Charlotte Flair claiming that Ludwig Kaiser, who is Tiffany Stratton's boyfriend, if you're not aware, in her DMs. The segment just kind of went off the rails. A lot of reporting has been done on this. So you have like Dave Meltzer going out. You have Sean Ross Sapp talking about it. The gist is on this whole Tiffany Stratton thing. Tiffany and Charlotte both have heat. Charlotte has a bit more heat than Tiffany. But when I look at the situation, it's rough for Tiffany because if Charlotte ate her alive a couple weeks ago in that sit-down promo with the split-screen garbage that WWE does, Charlotte Flair just absolutely eviscerated her in that promo. So Tiffany kind of needed to find some way to get back. Now, I'm not saying going off script and going into business for yourself in a way. I'm not saying that that's the way to do it, but Charlotte Flair is like, man, she just has this ability to just gun for people. And Charlotte wants people to get to her level, this 14-time world champion level. But, man, when you're Tiffany Stratton, it's a very difficult situation because now she's thrown the shot. She's finally not looked like a doormat like she's kind of looked in this whole feud with Charlotte. But now, we're 2 SmackDowns out from WrestleMania. And, man, Charlotte could very easily just, not give a great performance at WrestleMania and make Tiffany look really bad. I really doubt with 2 weeks that we're going to get like a shoot fight between Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. Maybe if they had that promo on SmackDown and they were facing off on Monday, yeah, I'd be a little more concerned about a shoot fight of some kind. But I don't think that's the case. This is definitely something WWE wants to distance themselves from. Anything that WWE has posted in terms of like Twitter or Facebook reviews, they've not talked about this segment. They had some tweets about it that they've already gotten rid of. So it's clear WWE themselves are like, this is not what we want from this segment. But it's definitely a part that's going to go down. Fans are going to remember this, despite WWE's attempting to rewrite history. I hate to say it like this, but despite the segment going off like that, it's what Tiffany Stratton needed to get to that level. Like, she was just getting eaten alive at every turn from Charlotte Flair. So she really needed that. Man, I hope the match at WrestleMania goes good. Professionals, or is as professional as it can be. And we'll see how it plays out. Next couple weeks will be interesting to see how Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton interact with each other and how this feud is presented going forward. Now we're going to switch gears, as Michael Cole used to say, and just give a touch, and let's talk about what's going on with Kevin Owens. If you haven't heard, again, on SmackDown, it was announced that Kevin Owens is suffering an injury. He's going to miss WrestleMania. It's not fun. Since then, some reports have come out. The weird thing is I've seen reports saying that Owens could be out from 6 months to a year. I think it's PW Torch is reporting that Owens could be out for the next 2 to 5 years. Not months, years. Which, I mean, this is the rumor is spinal fusion. So that's not entirely improbable. But I would hope that, if a 2 to 5 year timeline is what really is on the table for Owens about not being able to wrestle again, I would hope WWE does something, gets him behind the commentary booth, finds some way to get him back on TV as long as he's capable. I want to stress that point. We don't want a situation, as fans, we selfishly want. First and foremost, Kevin Owens' health and safety are paramount. That's what we want. We want him to be healthy again. We want him to be happy. And if it's possible, man, put that guy on the announce desk. Do something as soon as possible, safely possible, to get that man back on our TVs. Because Kevin Owens is just a gem. All thoughts with him. Kevin Owens has already been just kind of doing his Kevin Owens thing. He recently spoke about the Matt Riddle comments, where Matt Riddle had mentioned that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn were hard to work with because he couldn't get a word in edgewise. Kevin Owens was just recently on a podcast where he was like, yeah, that's true. We probably didn't let him get a word in edgewise. It's not a burial of the guy, but Matt Riddle, our track record speaks for itself as well as Matt Riddle's. So Kevin's already doing, he's still Kevin Owens. He's still going to fire his shots and not particularly care. So, all the positive thoughts go to Kevin Owens, his family, and that this surgery is great and he has a speedy recovery with no complications. I did say we're going to touch a little bit with Randy Orton's kind of, what might be happening, because obviously with 2 weeks to go to WrestleMania, you don't really want Randy Orton not having a match. It's probably not going to be the blood feud that we had with Kevin Owens. Obviously, you're not going to heat a feud up to that level in, 2 shows effectively. So I think there's a couple options. The first option I think we could potentially do is Nick Aldis versus Randy Orton. We kind of have that, if you've been paying attention, there's that funny callback to Randy Orton paying the fine. He RKO'd Nick Aldis, and Nick Aldis fined him, I think it was $25,000 or whatever it was, and Randy Orton basically gave him a check for double that. And Randy said, that's just payment for when I do it again. Because he knew he was going to, and, he did just RKO him. So technically, fine paid, blah, blah, blah. But I think that is a direction that they can go. I don't know if that's the direction WWE will go, but I think it is a direction they can go. There is a bit there where Nick Aldis can be like, look, you can't keep doing that. I get you're frustrated, but you can't keep attacking management. And Randy Orton goes, yeah, well, I'm Randy Orton. I'm going to do what I want. So that's one option. I think another option, and it might be fast-tracking a little bit, would be the return of Aleister Black, and do Aleister Black versus Randy Orton at WrestleMania. The only issue I have with that is who would go over in that match. If you did Randy Orton, Nick Aldis, Randy Orton would very likely go over. If you do Aleister Black versus Randy Orton, on one hand, that definitely gives Randy Orton a feud post-WrestleMania. Gives him something to do. But do you have Aleister Black return just to lose to Randy Orton? And vice versa, given that Randy Orton was part of this really hot feud with Kevin Owens. Do you stick him in a match with Aleister Black at WrestleMania and have Aleister Black go over? Again, it would benefit Aleister Black, and it would give Randy something to do in the months following WrestleMania. But it's hard to say if that's the direction they would go. I feel like that's the more likely direction they're going to go, is overturning Aleister Black versus Randy Orton, but I don't know. I mean, it'll be a good match, but I just don't know if that's the direction I would be willing to go with Randy Orton right now. But you don't have a whole lot of options unless you do like a super swerve and, call a favor in and get like, I've seen people fantasy booking like an open challenge in Batista. I think it would be cool, but Batista has basically said, never say never, but he doesn't really think he's going to ever be lacing up the boots again. But guys, that's all I have for right now. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Tiffany Stratton situation, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton's potential WrestleMania opponent. Let me know in the comments. Like, share, subscribe. Do all that fun stuff that we always ask you to do. And I will see all of you guys in the next video. Bye!